So, a question I'm often asked is this: is voiceover work seasonal? My response is sometimes yes, but it depends. Let's talk more about the specifics on this morning's live stream. How you doing? I'm Bill DeWeese, professional voiceover talent and voiceover coach, and I'm so glad that you have joined me this morning. I do this every weekday morning at about this time, give or take a minute or so, to talk voiceover strategies, tips, tricks, techniques, motivation, whatever's happening in voiceover. This is the place to catch up on the latest and to learn what you need, most importantly, to become more profitable, to make money, to make more money in voiceover, so that voiceover is not just a hobby for you, but that it's a source of income, whether that's a part-time gig or whether you're doing it as your full-time career. That's what I'm here to help you with, and that's what we're going to do. So, if you have a moment and don't mind, I'd love to give you a shout out this morning. Take a second to let me know what your name is and where you're watching or listening from this morning. And toward the end of the video, I'll make sure that I recognize everybody who's on the live stream this morning because I really do appreciate you taking the time to be here. So, and today's a Q&A as well. Friday's always Q&A. So if you have a question, throw it up there, and I'll share my thoughts on seasonal work and voiceover for a moment or two, and then I'll get into those questions. So voiceover work, generally speaking, is probably about the least seasonal work that I've ever been involved with. So if you were to look at a spreadsheet of my income from month to month, it really doesn't vary all that much. It stays pretty darn consistent, which I like. One thing you do have to understand is that I market very broadly and very aggressively. So, what that means is I have a broad range of types of work that I do, which accounts for, in large part, the consistency of my income. Generally speaking, there are some times of year where you can expect it to be a little slower than usual. For instance, the week leading up to the holidays, meaning, the Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year, that whole block of time leading into it and leading out of it. Like this week has been pretty slow, very slow for me, as a matter of fact. And that's fairly consistent. Year to year, I can pretty much expect that. Also, here in the US, around the 4th of July, our Independence Day, I can expect that like the Friday before we celebrate the weekend, the Monday after we celebrate the weekend, you're going to see, and maybe for a day or two after. A lot of people schedule their summer vacations around 4th of July here in the US, which means that the week before and the week after can be a little slower than usual. Outside of that, it's for me, in my experience, very consistent. And one of the reasons it is so consistent, as I just mentioned, is because I record a broad variety of work. Now, if you are very heavily dependent upon commercial work, particularly if you're doing radio and TV and, in markets, radio stations, TV stations that are dependent on you, there's a high volume of work, commercial work that flows through these facilities around the holidays. I remember my days in radio, especially when I was working as a production director. My gosh. I remember early on in my career, my first radio station, the general manager telling us around Christmas time saying, "One take, that's all you've got. You get in there, you do one take, and you get out," because there was literally a line waiting to get in to record commercials. It can get really backed up, for retail, which makes sense around the holidays. I do some commercial work. It's not the bulk of what I do, so I see very little impact on my workflow and the volume of work around the holidays. However, I do a lot of open enrollment work where employers are required to, there's that window of time where employees can sign up for benefits and declare what they want or what they don't want, what type of insurance they want or they don't want. And there's a lot of training that revolves around that. And by the way, I've never marketed for that. So, I don't have strategies for getting that specific kind of work because, as I said, I market very broad. My strategy is to market broadly and aggressively and let the market decide what they like. For some reason, people like me for open enrollment. I don't know why necessarily, but I've got a handful of clients that I make a lot of money around the holidays. Well, actually, I should say it is during the holidays, but leading up to the holidays, coming out of like summer. So fall into winter is very heavy for me. in open enrollment, but it may not be for you. It just depends on the type of work you do. So that just, it's not one of those kind of things, generally speaking, that I think you need to worry about, because generally speaking, and I'm saying this over a span of 17 years, my income has been extremely consistent month to month. So now let's move to your questions. What's on your mind this morning? Let's check in, see who's on the live stream and what questions we have. Hey, Mark in Albuquerque, good morning to you. Tess in Atlanta, thanks for checking in. Steve in Bucyrus, what pre-record settings do you use on your UA interface? Well, I'm not going to share with you all my specific settings. That would my settings wouldn't apply to you or anybody else. I mean, it's based on my voice, my equipment, my studio. I can give you the general type of stuff that I use. Like for instance, and UA is Universal Audio. I use the API Vision channel strip. I use a de-esser. I use a noise reducer. I use a compressor. Specifically, I use the Avalon 737 and a Fairchild 660. And by the way, if you don't know what that stuff is, doesn't matter. You don't need to know. It's just, those are just specifics of the kind of things that I use that are not important whether you use those or not. Janet, living in Florida, how are you doing? Susan in New Jersey, Philip in Tokyo, good evening. Hey, Robert in Brooklyn, David in Lexington, Kentucky, Neil in Fairfield. Steve, good morning to you in Oshkosh. Oh, you are welcome for another week of content. Hey, John in Fort Wayne, thanks for checking in. Tim in Altoona, good morning. Hello, Dina in Oklahoma. Sandra in Dallas-Fort Worth. Hey, Dory, good morning from Maryland. So you've sent the introductory email to a new prospect. Aside from utilizing a CRM service, when would you next follow up and how? And by the way, I don't use a CRM service. I've used CRM services like Salesforce and such in the past for other jobs. I don't for this. VoiceOver to me is a very simple job. I track my clients in a spreadsheet. And I send, email. When I do an email, I'm going to do it individually, because here's the thing. When I've reached out to a client, a prospective client, I do it in mass. I mean, thousands, tens of thousands of emails have been sent out to clients, okay, over the years. So the only thing I'm interested in are the people who respond back to me. If you don't respond back to me, you're not going to hear from me, and it just may be a matter of timing. Maybe the timing's not right. That's fine. But I'm just going to keep moving. It's a lot more work. Here's the way I look at it. If I'm going to try, I'm not going to track everybody I reach out to and then decide, am I going to reach back out to them? Am I going to reach back out to them? That's a lot of work and would require CRM. What I do is I just blanket everybody systematically. If you respond back to me, then you go in my database, in my Excel spreadsheet, and I will begin to follow up with you at least 6 times a year. It's a simpler, easier way that will allow you to work faster and more efficiently, and you can do that because the numbers are so great. If there weren't that many prospective clients in VoiceOver, then you probably couldn't get by with that. But there are such massive numbers because it's a global business. There are tens of thousands of these video production companies and content producers all over the world. That's how I do it. Lawless Watson, good morning to you in Washington, D.C. Lawless lives in Washington, D.C. I find that very interesting. Ryder, good morning. Keith in Renton, Washington, what's up? Gregory in Chili Ringgold, Georgia. Good morning. Let's see here. Fatingo from Puerto Rico. Got my first Audible audiobook project up on the site. Hey, that's fantastic. Congratulations to you. I love it. I love to hear that kind of thing. Spyro from Old Australia. Awesome. Thanks for being on the stream today, Spyro. I appreciate that. Or maybe it's Spiro. I remember we had a vice president, Spiro Agnew, who was vice president to Richard Nixon. And perhaps that's the proper pronunciation. Not sure, but regardless, so glad to have you here. Scott in Dayton, hello there. Hey, Walter in Salt Lake City, hope you're doing well. And John in Rhinebeck, New York, good morning. Ed in Brightwood, Oregon. What's an effective billing system? Well, Quicken is used by a lot of people, very popular, very easy to use. As time goes by, these systems become easier and easier to use. We used Quicken for years. A few years back, we switched over to FreshBooks, and it's in the cloud, which I'm sure QuickBooks is now as well. At the time, QuickBooks wasn't. as I recall. But so FreshBooks is what I use. It works well. You don't need anything complicated. That's for sure. Probably, and I'm sure there's a lot of billing systems that would work well. Always remember this, keep it simple. Keep everything simple. Don't complicate beyond what you need to, because you'll spend more time managing your system than you will be getting work. Wesley, good morning to you in Little Rock. Craig, good morning to you in Wichita, Kansas. Rusty, what's up in the Upper Peninsula? Let's see here. Mariella, good morning to you in Costa Rica. Bob, greetings to you in Reidsville, North Carolina. Jolie, how are you? I keep feeling I should change my mic setup. I've worked with Alex with my effects rack with my USB Apogee Hyper mic, or it's my room sound treating or my technique, how to figure out. My question, I know you've worked with Alex. Alex, by the way, is Alex DeWeese, my son, who's an audio engineer who works with voiceover talent. By the way, you can, if you need help getting your stuff set up, he's extremely reasonable, price-wise to work with and he's very good at what he does. It's Alex at BillDeWeese.com, ALEX, Alex at BillDeWeese.com. Um, does Alex say that you need new microphone setup? I mean, it's easy when things aren't here's the thing, and Jolie, this may or may not be your situation, so you can take it as you will. But oftentimes, when things aren't working out the way we think they should be or as fast as we want, we start to question things like our equipment. Now, sometimes that is the issue. But if you're working with Alex, I'm sure, has given you some feedback. So I'm curious, if Alex doesn't feel that your audio needs anything different, I would focus more on performance and marketing. But if he feels, and you guys together feel there's need for improvement, then always start with your room treatment. That's the mic's secondary. The room treatment's primary. You start with that and then work kind of backwards from there. I hope that helps, Jolie. Um, Clara, hello. Theo, happy Friday from Chicago. Sipping some Cafe Bustelo while on the train, but craving some Michigan cherry coffee. It's been too long. Now, Theo, do they serve? I assume they're not serving you on the train. The way you say it, I picture you sitting on a train with a very nice dining table and a white linen, cloth over top, and somebody, a server's bringing you your Cafe Bustelo. But I'm probably not envisioning it exactly the way it is from my experience on the metro. Just saying. Hey, Craig. Mark, what's up in Wilmington, North Carolina? For marketing emails to prospects, what do you put in the subject line for your introductory emails? What tends to work well? You know, Mark, here's the thing. Less is more. Don't try to be cutesy or tricky. Don't try to, don't do clickbait type stuff to try to get them to read it, because business people, they hate and despise that kind of thing. So I use simple things like voiceover. Literally, that's my subject line oftentimes. Voiceover, male voice talent, things I that's me. It's not clever, but it can be effective. Nicholas, good morning to you in Oklahoma. Do shotgun mics use batteries? None that I've ever used. I have a Sennheiser 416. It does not require a battery, and I also have another shotgun. I can't remember the brand name of it. But no, generally speaking, no, not the ones I've seen. Chuck, good morning to you in Augusta, Georgia. Hey, Bob, do I use Isotope RX or similar product for cleaning background noise? Well, I use two things. I use the Universal Audio C-Suite CVox for reducing background noise, and I use Waves X Crackle for reducing snap, crackle, and pop clicks in my audio. That's what I use. Although I know Isotope RX is highly regarded and is very good. Nicholas, good morning. Tom in South Florida, what's up? Hey, Bob. Anthony, good morning. DG in Downers Grove. John in the Chicago burbs. Is there a need to retain legal counsel for anything in voiceover? John, in my 17 years, I've never used legal counsel. Now, a lot of people just out of, when setting up their business entity might use an attorney. I used a tax professional to do that. If you were to get sued, which I don't know what people anybody would sue you for, I guess unless they paid you and you didn't deliver the goods. But I've never used an attorney myself. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but I've never had the need to. Good morning, Ryan in Long Island. We've got DJ in Northern Michigan. Thanks for the kind remarks. I appreciate that. Theo says the train imagery is beautiful, but Metra is much less fancy. Yeah. Yes, indeed it is. Michael, hello there. But we can all dream, right? Hey, Rob. How you doing? For Jolie, I have used the Apogee Hyper mic a lot, but much prefer the new Rode Video Go Mic 2. It is amazing. Supplied with a pop filter and a very good shock mount, currently selling for around 80 bucks. Rob, thanks for the input. I appreciate that. And Rob, who is a member of the VoiceOver Blueprint community, who's doing very well in voiceover and always Rob is one of those kind of people that is a very giving and sharing person, and he's the epitome of what it means to be in the voiceover blueprint because he's always helping other people out. And appreciate you, Rob. Hey, Rick. Good morning to you in Spring, Texas. Hello in Seattle. Was wondering about some good practices for voice improvements. Now, I don't know if you mean like vocal health or voice performance. Um, Not sure. I'm guessing you probably mean performance. And here's what I would recommend in this channel. If you just search, and as a matter of fact, there's a playlist on performance, but search voiceover performance. I've got a lot of videos, a lot of content. It would require too much time to go into any depth here this morning. But if you do that, there's a lot of content on this channel that can help you with that. Hey, Philip, researching taxation compliance in a foreign country. Any thoughts on VO networking in specific countries? No, not necessarily. I mean, that's not within my experience. However, I mean, there's a lot of meetup groups and people like that, and I can see where you might want to have other people to get together with. Is meetup.com still a thing? If so, I mean, I would start there or I would just search voiceover meetup group, and for your area. And I'm saying this broadly to anybody who's looking for if you're just looking for a support group to get together with, just Google, meetup, voiceover, and then your general region, and you hopefully would find something. But Philip, for your specific situation, I don't know of a group to point you to, I'm sorry to say. Hey, Doug in Greensboro, North Carolina, happy Friday to you. Jay says his Sennheiser can take a battery if you are remote and need phantom power. If you are connected to an interface that has phantom power, no battery needed. Oh, you know what? Maybe my Sennheiser does too. Jay, that's interesting. What shows you what an engineer I am not. I did not know that. Thank you for sharing. Appreciate it. Jake, good morning to you in Ocean City, Maryland. Jake Clark. Hey, brand new Deweese Blueprint student here. All right. Good to have you on board. Man, I love it when you guys join the VoiceOver Blueprint. It's a dynamic and growing community of people who are learning and supporting and getting the treatment and feedback. Oh, dude, I forgot I was going to share with you. Had the nicest. I'll do it next week. Just the coolest email from a new student in the Blueprint who was on one of the webinars. We do a coaching webinar almost every weekday, about between 25 and 28 coaching webinars per month. That's part of the VoiceOver Blueprint. And we took just a few minutes. I was coaching her on a read. It was for an audition. She wasn't sure she wanted to give it two different treatments, two different reads. So I coached her through it. And it was for Pergo. Yeah, Pergo Floors. And she landed the job. Yeah, so that was exciting. Let's see here. Ty in Warsaw, Indiana. Good morning. Thank you for the meetup is still around. Good to know. I wasn't sure. Patrick, good morning to you in Maryland. And Philip, he has an MKE 600 shotgun mic that takes a battery. So, yeah, from people who actually know. I'm not using a shotgun mic currently, and the mics that I have used, I haven't used a battery, but perhaps they will take a battery. I just didn't know it, which again speaks to my in-depth knowledge, I say tongue in cheek, of voiceover tech. Hey, Sandra, Happy New Year to you. Much love from South Africa. Thank you. Appreciate that, Sandra. And the same to you as well. Appreciate you guys being on the stream this morning. TGIF, have a wonderful weekend. And I look forward to seeing you back here on Monday.